I figured I may as well just go ahead and kick this on. Everybody's starting to show up. So hello, and welcome to the Rotted Reviews New Year's Eve, end of 2021 live stream. So hi to everybody that's showing up here. Bob, George, Jackie, Liam, Sammy. It's great to see you here. I hope you enjoy this. I'm a little nervous. I don't live stream very often. So it's one of those things where I just kind of like get the butterflies. It's so weird that I still get butterflies about some things in regards to streaming or broadcasting or anything regarding this channel. But here we are. So I figure we can go ahead and start with getting some things out of the way. First of all, for those of you that don't know, on the Patreon, over the last year, I've been doing a weekly vlog. Hi, B. Hi everybody. So I've been doing a weekly vlog, and part of that vlog has been doing a segment in which I will answer a singular question. So I'll have the patrons pool together a bunch of questions, and I'll randomly select from one of them, and that will be the vlog question of the week. And I decided that I will go ahead and take whatever remains and just blast through them and get everything done. And of course, things being what they are, this looks like it is turning into a Liam special. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we got and see how many we can knock out. I'm not going to be quite as verbose. Hey, things are working, I think. Neat. Okay. Hey, thank you. Hi, Brian. Hi, PL. Love your vids. I'm very happy to hear that. I always enjoy it when people, respond and they've been digging my content. That's just everything to me. That's awesome. I work very hard on it, so that's awesome. So let's go ahead and get through some of these at least. So what is your favorite film of 1993? You know what? That's a good question. Let me movies of 1993. Okay, so right off the just basic list that I see here coming up, you didn't specify horror, you just specified film. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, honestly, Tombstone was fantastic. I am a big fan of Westerns done well, but Tombstone was one that was done extraordinarily well. So there was another one that came out that very few people talk about, but I personally loved. It was difficult. It was a bit problematic, but it was called Perfect World, and it had Kevin Costner in it, and it was Clint Eastwood directed it, and it was a very, very difficult movie, but I enjoyed it. Broke my heart, had me bawling, but that's one we don't hear a whole lot of people talk about. Oh, wow. Look. Hi, Sean. Hi, Everett. Wow, geez, a whole bunch of people joining. So welcome for those that are joining us here. So I'm, for those of you that are just joining us, I'm blasting through the remaining vlog questions of the week to just start 2022 off fresh. Next question is, what are your thoughts on 𝗘𝗾𝗺𝗺 3, and why is 𝗘𝗾𝗺 the best movie you have ever seen? It is not. I honestly hope that there is no 𝗘𝗾𝗺 3. I'm sorry, Liam. 𝗘𝗾𝗺 is fun. I'm not going to pretend that it isn't. It's a good, bad movie. And it's one of the best good, bad movies. But I think that to have a legitimately good, bad movie like Troll 2, 𝗘𝗾𝗺, The Room, things like that, it kind of has to be a bit organic and accidental. I think one of the things that makes it great is when the filmmaker, they might not believe that it's the best movie in the world, but they certainly have passion behind it, and they don't expect it to be quite what it turned out to be. So I think that continuing on with the series would take away that organic magic that makes it a cult classic. So that's why I kind of hope there isn't another. Let's see. You said you had very strict rules when starting your channel. What are some that you have changed, and what are some that you stick to? So that's a good question. When I first started the channel over about 3.5 years ago now, I had a lot of rules that I made for myself. I was mostly familiar with YouTube in terms of Let's Plays and, being a stepfather at the time. My kid, Sky does Minecraft, and just a whole lot of screaming, yelling, obnoxious things and so forth. And it was, it wasn't that great. But then I started getting introduced to like Good Mythical Morning and so on. So when I started my channel, I had a list of rules that I wanted to be following. And a lot of it was taking that obnoxious tone and bringing it down a little bit. But there is a level of hubris that I inadvertently brought to the table. It's one of those things where you don't realize why things are the way they are until you're just in it. So obnoxious faces on the thumbnails, things like that. I have broken my own rule. I didn't want to do that, but it works, and it's not the most terrible thing in the world. The fact of the matter is, the videos that have those obnoxious thumbnails tend to do better. And I mean, I could stick with my principles and have an audience of 5 people, but I don't know if I would have lasted 3.5 years just talking to the ether. So that's one that I've broken. I've broken several in terms of, like, I had one that was no swearing. I've broken that. There are a few that I have stuck to, and that's mostly in regards to stuff behind the channel. Like, I don't, and I apologize for this, if anybody's ever asked me about this, especially other creators, I don't sub for sub. I just don't. If anybody asks me to check out their channel and subscribe to them, or hey, I'll subscribe to you if you subscribe to me, I don't do it. But I will check out the stuff. If I dig it, then I'll subscribe. But I don't just, quid pro quo like that. And there's a few reasons for it. I think that it just, things like that just kind of ramp up to a false level of analytic popularity in the short term, and then wind up with dead subs in the long term. And one thing that I have really stuck to my guns on my rules is slow growth, slow organic growth. So that's one that I've stuck to. Let's see. Okay, let's catch up with a few people joining us here. So, Slops is here? Slops. Hi. So, welcome to everybody. Again, just blasting through some of the last vlog questions of the week that I've been doing for patrons and getting a fresh start for 2022. If you can have a movie-based creature as a pet, what would it be? Thank you, Ben, for asking this one. I would say 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺. I would love to have a luck dragon. I think it would be fantastic. It would be a friend. I mean, there's an implication of good luck behind having him nearby. I don't think it's actually explicitly stated. If it is, or if maybe it's just in the book, please let me know. But I think that it would be great. He's very personable and great mode of transportation. I would definitely have 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺, the luck dragon. Hello, Mr. Boone. Welcome. What's another embarrassing childhood story? So there was a story that I told. It was kind of not safe for work, but it was sprung off a question that B asked me about. You appear really intelligent. Thank you. I don't think I quite deserve that, but what's a stupid thing you've done? And I told the story, and now Liam's asking for more. So let's see. The best story ever, Mike. Yeah, I don't know about that. Embarrassing child. Okay, so this one was like, one of the peak embarrassing things, but it was a situation where I was, I'm going to try and fly through this because I know there's limited time and I usually expand more. But when I was a Boy Scout, and I was in the Boy Scouts until I was like 17 years old. And there was one moment in which I was a very awkward kind of, in the preteen stage, everything was very confusing and awkward. And there was a camping trip, and it was kind of to a campsite that was family friendly. It wasn't like hardcore camping of, going up into the high Sierras. I did do that later, but it was just a, little family campground kind of thing. And because it was a family campground, some of us were invited to bring family members or friends. And so it was kind of just this big communal, fun little summertime camp thing. And one of my friends brought his sister, and of course, me being the awkward teenager that I was, and, like hanging out at the swimming pool of this campground and so forth, of course, I became smitten. And so I didn't do anything about it, because of course I didn't. And towards the end of the trip, everything, it was the last day, we're packing up things, and I wrote out a love letter to her. And I gave it to her, and I went just, okay, scramble, smoke bomb. And I went home, and I come to find out that she traveled in a minivan with a bunch of my other fellow scouts and so forth. And she read the letter out loud. And once I found that out, it was just devastating. They were making fun of me left and right. It was just this like mortal embarrassment. And it's one of those things where, like I'm 41 years old. I'll be falling asleep. And it's like, remember that letter you sent to that campground? So that was an embarrassing childhood story. Yeah, I've told it before, like in chat, Sammy. But yeah, that's my life. Yes, sir. No, my life. Especially in those years, were just made up of the most awkward stuff. Not to bring things down, but there is a level of emotional and social stifling that happens in an abusive household. And I don't know if it's one of those things where I just kind of self-perceive things, but I always felt like I was awkward on top of awkward, and it was a little difficult, kind of coming into my own, which I don't think honestly really happened as far as any kind of that emotional growth, that personable growth, that level of social engagement, in which I actually started really engaging with my peers until I was 18 or over. Probably the greatest love letter ever written. I don't know. I genuinely don't remember what it was. Let's see. What are 5 Christmas movies you would say are essential viewing? Okay, so I have gone my entire life up until this year without watching, not Miracle on 34th Street, Jimmy Stewart, It's a Wonderful Life. Now that I have watched It's a Wonderful Life, I will say that is essential viewing. That was a fantastic movie. It lives up to the hype. I know people are probably going to press me on horror movies, Christmas horror movies. I would say that A Christmas Horror Story is exceptionally good. I think it kind of starts out from a place of mediocre, and it continues on with mediocre. And it was one of those things where I was enjoying it. It wasn't quite stellar, but the last 10 minutes of it turned it into stellar. I loved how it finished things off, and it just turned it into this great movie for me. I know that I tout this one, and I would honestly love it if it blew up, if it became some other people's annual watch, because it surprised the hell out of me, and it has become one of my annual watches, is A Cadaver Christmas. It's low budget, it's small, it's silly, but it was just one of the most magical Christmas watches that I had last year, and I certainly watched it again this year. I love A Cadaver Christmas. Someone asked earlier if I'm going to be doing an advent calendar in 2022. I am not. So I've done 4 advent calendars right now, and it's been a hair over 100 movies. That kind of gets into some detail, but it's been 100 movies, let's just say. And the advent calendars are extremely taxing. When I first started the channel, I was basically just kicking on OBS, recording and stopping and uploading. That was it. Now I actually have some manner of production involved, and it takes time. And it's one of those things where I slowed things down for October because I wanted to enjoy the holiday. And then I slowed things down for November because I wanted a break. And I felt like I needed to do another advent calendar, and there was another 25 movies. There are certainly another 25 on top of this. I could do a 2022 advent calendar. But I just think 100 is a good place to stop with that. And next year, I think I'll be focusing more on enjoying my holiday. Christmas came and went in such a blink that it was on me before I knew it. And by the time the day rolled around, I was on, it was this weird thing where I hadn't enjoyed it. And by the time it came around, I was sick of it. So it was this really weird kind of situation there. So, yeah, I'm done with the advent calendars. I'm going to be doing something Christmassy. I don't know what. I'll be figuring it out. So there definitely will be some Christmas theme videos happening next December, but no more advent calendar. So to continue on with the 5, I still have 3 Christmas movies left. I really like the remake of Miracle on 34th Street with Dylan McDermott. I thought it was done exceptionally well. I wasn't a huge fan of the original. I thought it was a little bit boring, a little bit bland, and the remake updates a lot of that in a really great way. Yeah, a lot of the list that I took for inspiration and for reference this year for the Advent calendar came from Ben's Letterboxd list. I recommend, if you're comfortable with it and if you want to post a link to your Letterboxd profile, or just to the list, it's a hell of a list. So yeah, that helped me out a lot. Thank you, Ben. I don't know if I should say that. Yeah, I'm going to say thank you. So let's see, another two Christmas horror movies. Krampus is great. I mean, it's great just all around. So I'm definitely going to say Krampus. And for the fifth one, I am going to say the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode of Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. There you go. So that's 5 Christmas Christmas movies that I think are essential viewing. And let's just go back to the big screen. And there we are. So let me just catch up a little bit on the chat here, see what you're all saying. I'm trying to focus on several things at once here. Black and white only, never colorized. Yeah. I mean, I would say if you have the option to go black and white, it's definitely better to go. I share that opinion. It's one of those things where if it was made in black and white, that's the way I prefer to watch it. The colorization process, I think, takes away a bit of the heart of it. Yeah, While You Were Sleeping is good. I mean, I live very near the town that Bill Pullman was born and raised in. And I mean, there's actually a sign on the outskirts of town, home of Bill Pullman. So I'm a big fan of Bill Pullman. I always have been. Ever since Lost Highway, ever since Zero Effect, I've been a huge fan of Bill Pullman. I know a lot of people say that he's just bland on bland, but I enjoy the shit out of his stuff. So yeah, While You Were Sleeping, I agree with that. Cult movie that doesn't deserve cult status. That's a good question. I don't know if you'd count it as a cult movie, but I don't know. I don't think Cannibal Holocaust was really all that. I think maybe it gained some cult status for being as shocking as it was, but I don't know. I mean, your channel is exploitative or exploitation, so I mean, there's that level of involvement is a little bit of exploitation, but yeah, I just never thought that Cannibal Holocaust was deserving of the praise that it got from the cult status that it had. Ben, I actually haven't seen Ernest Saves Christmas in a spell. I need to rewatch that and figure that out, or see if it lives up to the hype again. So, but I do love Ernest Scared Stupid, Ernest Goes to Camp, so on. I just need to rewatch Ernest Saves Christmas. So let's do a little bit of year-end roundup stuff. Now, I've mentioned before in a vlog that I don't like to do best of, worst of lists. The worst of, it kind of feels a little bit, I don't know. I try to not come from a place of negativity. Even when I do a negative film review, it's very often, as much as as possible, I try to come from a place of, well, let's at least find an audience for it if it didn't work for me. Very, very rarely do I just say that something isn't worth watching. Done. So, I see people come up with worst of lists, and two things kind of cross my mind. One is it's inherently negative, and, if people want to go there, that's on them. That's not a problem. I don't really have an issue with it. It's just not something that I like to put that energy out. And two is, thank you, Jackie, for the donation. I'll get to your question in just a second. I just want to cover the second thing here. When people come up with their worst of list, another thing that I notice is that they need to watch more bad movies. When they are coming up with their worst of 2021 list, and it includes things like Malevolent or whatever, or the Fear Street trilogy. I know that was divisive, but for anybody to put that on their worst of list, it's like, man, you need to watch some fucking Amityville Prison or Amityville. You need to watch Bottle Monster. You need to watch some of these others that I have had to go through. Malignant, thank you. You really need to watch more bad movies. There is a reason that I say that. I think it broadens your horizons. I think it exposes you to more stuff. You get an opportunity for some really great hidden gems. Every once in a while, when you kick on something you think will be bad, it will surprise you, and that's just a glorious moment. It also helps you understand what doesn't work. If you really try and analyze, well, this character seemed, stiff with their dialogue. Why was that? Was it the writing? Was it the acting? Was it both? It helps you kind of, improve your analyzation of films more. So when people are coming up with something that is, perhaps not for them, but very technically adept, something like the Fear Street trilogy, and saying it's the worst of, man, you needed to watch some more fucking movies. Jackie, so let's see. Got a question for you. A town from a horror film that you really like the vibe of and would be okay with living there. Oh, a town from a horror film that you really like the vibe of and would be okay with living there. That's one I had never really thought of before. Honestly, I mean, a lot of the Stephen King Maine towns, I like where I live. I live in Andover, New York, which is a nice little village nestled in the hills of southwestern New York, town of about 1,000 people. And aside from some of the political differences, I think it's a fantastic place to live. So when I watch movies like Needful Things or Apt Pupil, some of the Stephen King series that are so often set in, Bangor or something like that, and it shows the idyllic, town, it kind of reminds me of where I'm at, and I like where I'm at. So yeah, Nilbog, yeah, that'd be a great place. So let's see. Manos, The Hands of Fate, the worst. It was 70-something minutes, and I only watched 50 because it was that bad. Manos, The Hands of Fate is extraordinarily boring. I honestly have trouble getting through it, even with the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version. It's tough. It's so boring. I could not imagine trying to sit through it and stay awake without Mike and the Bot, or Joel and the Bot. That was a Joel and the Bot's episode. Joel and the Bot's riffing on it. Is there a horror movie in Hawaii? Is there a horror movie in Hawaii? A lot of horror movies are just kind of set in, isolated towns and so on. I don't know. That's a good question. You wrote a short horror film that took place in Hawaii? Oh, neat. That's awesome. Love the coastal town in the last season of American Horror Story. I need to catch up with American Horror Story. I've only seen Murder House and Asylum, and that's it. They're a little tough for me to get through. I kind of lose a little bit of interest, and I think that they're a little bit slow for my liking, but yeah. I would like to catch up. And I know that, that's one of those things that it's like at this point, ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot of watching. So let's take a look at, so I was coming to a point. I forgot that I was coming to a point. That happens often. As far as the best of, worst of list, I don't like doing worst of. I'm not going to do a worst of. I did assemble a best of list, but I do want to preface it saying that it's not necessarily the movies that I think were best in terms of objective quality. Free Broken Triangle. But they're the movies that I thought was high quality and I enjoyed them. So they were the best for me, for what that's worth. So let's take a look at that. All right. Candyman, and this is not in any order. I'm not numbering 1 through 10. They're just dumb. So Candyman, I loved Candyman. I thought that was a really great entry into the series. I love how it dealt with the social aspects of gentrification, things like that. I thought it had some good social commentary and was a good movie with good characters to boot. Titane was just absolutely bonkers, and I was absolutely down for that thrill ride. We Need to Do Something was one of those hidden gems. I didn't know what to expect out of it. I was honestly expecting something kind of, and that turned into one of my favorites of the entire year. I loved We Need to Do Something. VHS 94, I wasn't expecting it to be on this list just like prior to watching it based on, VHS 2, 3, and Viral and so on. But it absolutely deserves it. The 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗀 segment alone. But overall, I thought it was an extremely well-rounded anthology. Werewolves Within, great humor, great characters. I loved the dialogue back and forth. I know it wasn't for everybody. That was a bit of a divisive one, but the humor of it worked for me. Bloody Hell, that's one I didn't get around to reviewing, but I did love it. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Liam. I don't... Everybody's wanting Broken Triangle. Yeah, Bloody Hell, I loved. It had this... I couldn't help it. It was one of those movies where you're watching it, or at least for me, I was watching it. And as I was watching it, there were at least like 5 times in which I kind of pulled back, had a little bit of self-reflection, and realized that I was smiling from ear to ear. And I love those little moments where I realized just how much I'm actually enjoying it. There was a definite Calvin and Hobbes lover in me that I think was bringing that to the movie. But even so, it was great. A Ghost Waits. This is one that I really wanted to make sure that I prefaced that this is not objectively like one of the best movies of 2021, but I enjoyed it so much, and it was another one that was just this absolute sleeper surprise. It's silly. It's extremely low budget, like super low. But I thought that the characters and the dialogue and the humor worked. And it actually kind of made me mist up and cry a little bit. And it's one, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but what I will say is that a lot of people don't like it because the ending, and I fully admit, is very problematic. And it was one of those ones where I don't think it was a situation where I had to look beyond it. It was just, I didn't mind it so much. I recognized that it was problematic, but at the same time, I still loved the movie. The 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗺, very British ghost hunt. This is one that, again, low budget, wasn't expecting it, came out of nowhere, where it's a real documentary, and I just fell in love with it. Apparently, the 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗺 is an actual podcast, and it mostly takes place within 2 people, and I forget their names now. But one of them is a believer in the supernatural, and the other one is a skeptic. And the believer is constantly trying to bring the skeptic over to his side of the argument. And they'll go on, ghost hunts and so on, or bring their EMF meters. And this particular movie is taking the camera on the road with them as they're doing this and bringing this documentary to life. And the level of interaction between the 2 main characters, well, not even characters, 2 main people in this was so great. The humor that comes from their natural friendship was something that I just fell in love with. And the movie kind of took me into places that I really wasn't expecting. Like, there were some challenging moments in it that tested their friendship in a very real way, and it felt real. I mean, I'm sure that some of it was staged. It was probably one of those quote-unquote documentaries, but whatever was... I don't think anything was fabricated, but if anything was staged, it certainly felt very organic. And there's something about watching real friends on screen interact with one another in a real way that always captures my heart. So, Fear Street, I know, like I said, it was divisive. I loved it. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat here. I just love to hear. My eyes and my mouth aren't working together. I'd love to just about some of your all-time faves. Okay, so. Horror and non-horror, and Broken Triangle. And lastly, St. Maud. So yeah, St. Maud was decent. I enjoyed it. I think it was a situation where I don't think it was necessarily the best movie ever. Thank you, 𝗘𝗾𝗺𝗺𝗀. It was just one of the best of the year, and that's not really touting the movie as much as it is really taking an honest look at the year. This year has been weird for horror. Not a lot of great stuff. I'm not exactly sure, what happened, but it's just a lot of mediocrity, and I mean, just not a huge pool to pull from generally. But But I've noticed something is where we have been kind of lackluster in 2021 in terms of movies, we have been absolutely blessed with TV shows. There's been so many great streaming TV series this year. Let's see if I can bring up a few of them here. The Shrink Next Door, Mayor of Easttown, Midnight Mass, the Marvel series. I've enjoyed pretty much all of them. Squid Game. Yeah, it's been a phenomenal year for streaming series. So, I mean, that's definitely helped, keep the vibrancy going. But, I kind of wish that, I could include some of them in the, but, it's a movie channel. I'll do movies. I got some pushback on, when I did review TV series, but, yeah, my channel. Some really great true crime stuff, too. If you do, that's perfectly fine. But I don't really follow a whole lot of true crime stuff. It can be emotionally difficult for me, and it's not that I don't enjoy being challenged. It's it's kind of a combination of being challenged and also having a finite watch time. So there is an element of me that does have to kind of prioritize the media that I absorb. And yeah, true crime. It also kind of starts. I've noticed that a lot of the true crime community will start going down some very interesting rabbit holes that I'm not necessarily cool on going down myself. Okay, so Tanner, to get to your question, love to hear about some of your all-time fave horror and non-horror, and free Broken Triangle. Okay, so some of my all-time faves in terms of horror is Evil Dead 2. A lot of those series, the Fede Alvarez Evil Dead remake. I'm looking forward to Evil Dead Rises, I think it's called, in 2022. I don't know what it's going to be about, but I'm excited for it. Bruce Campbell's going to be producing, so we'll just see. Well, you know what? Let's just go back to my Letterboxd. So this is films, and we'll just sort them by my ratings. Of course, this is one of the things I know that people can be. I've for the most part, my 0 to 100 scoring system has been well received, but I like how much of a gradient it gives. When everything is broken down into half star measures like this, it's kind of tough to really this whole first page is 4.5 stars. So where do I pick among them? So I will say that Evil Dead 2, Tale of Two Sisters, I see there. I definitely want to make sure that gets a shout out there. I think my favorite film of all time in terms of my enjoyment of it and the absolute beauty of the cinema is this one here, 1945, Children of Paradise, French film. Just absolutely gorgeous. One of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen, with one of the most heart-wrenching storylines I've ever watched. To me, that is kind of right up there with one of my top movies. One of my top movies of modern times would probably be, Shawshank Redemption would definitely be one. Bye, Sean. Thanks for joining. And the John Turturro, Sam Rockwell movie, Box of Moonlight. That's one that I don't think makes a lot of people's top list, but it does me. I've described that in the past as a coming-of-age movie for the midlife crisis. And that's about the best example I can come up with. It's one of the early Sam Rockwell movies, has Catherine Keener in it. It's a fantastic movie. I recommend checking it out. And you get to see Sam Rockwell's dong in it. So there's that. A little bit of Rockwell dong. There we go. Yeah, best in show's good. If you want to see, some of my top movies, you can always just check out my Letterboxd. I have a lot of things rated. I'm working on more. I know that there's movies in here that I haven't, marked, and I'm working on bringing that up to date. But yeah. Oh, You know what? Maybe this. Oh, that was 2020. That's why I didn't include on the list. There's a movie from India that was a really great Indian film or Indian horror film that took me by surprise. It was called 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗀, and it was on Netflix. It was a 2020 movie. Check that out. I'm just looking at the list here. Oh, here's a really good one that's, again, not a lot of people's lists, but I am trying to get more people watching it. It's the, what year? 1999 movie directed by Tim Robbins, 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗀 Will Rock. The cast in it is just insane. Hank Azaria, Joan Cusack, John Cusack, Cary Elwes, Bill Murray, John Turturro, Susan Sarandon, Emily Watson, Jack Black, Kyle Gass, Paul Giamatti. The list just goes on and on and on. And everybody does a fantastic job. It's about community theater that's been set up and working within the confines of the Red Scare. And, you know, are you now or have you ever been affiliated with the Communist Party and so on and so forth. And the level of federal funding or state funding that goes into the theater as they're getting shut down, things like that. Great movie. I mean, you wouldn't think so, but there is a scene with Bill Murray, Jack Black, and Kyle Gass that tore my heart out. I was bawling. It was so sad. And you wouldn't think so based on those names, but there we are. So, yeah, 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗀 Will Rock. So let's see. Just watch Red Rocket. If you want Dong, mark your calendar for that one. That's been on my list. Not because of Dong, but just because everybody seems to be enjoying it. So, you know, I've been wanting to watch Red Rocket. That'll probably be something that I watch in the next year or next week or so. My timeline is all screwed up with the advent calendar and trying to get these last things squared away. I have one more review to do that I'll be putting out this afternoon/evening, and then I'll basically be collapsing across the finish line and napping for a week. I gave myself one day off that was sort of unplanned, but other than that, it has been a video every day in December, and I'm just going on like emotional and mental autopilot. I love what I do, don't get me wrong, but I am so sick of the Adobe Premiere timeline. I can see it in my sleep. But yeah, I'm so looking forward to finishing this last review and then taking a good long break and catching up on some movies that I've been wanting to watch. Naps have been, since I've been working remote and I don't have the commute, naps have reintegrated themselves into my life. And it's just the most beautiful thing ever. You know, I get an hour lunch. So, I mean, I'll have a bowl of ramen or something. I'll eat for 10 minutes and then I'll take a nap for the rest of my hour lunch. It's just the best thing ever. I hope I keep working remote for a while just because, you know, it's like, I forgot about naps. Wow. Oh, thank you, Sammy. Just love you to bits. I love you too. I love you all. You definitely deserve a break, man. I took 2 weeks and felt great. Yeah, I'm going to be, I got some patron stuff to kind of wrap up for January to kind of, you know, start scheduling out the watch parties and come up with the monthly newsletter, things like that. But once that happens, I'm probably going to not have a video for a solid week. Just, yeah. Done looking at the Premiere timeline. Have you ever found yourself Control-Z things in real life? Like trying to undo them? Oh God, so often, but you know, I mean, you can't. I try not to have regrets. I mean, if I mean, I know that goes from an undo to regret. So this kind of, you know, going from light to heavy, but even so, yeah, any mistakes that I've made, I know this can be cliche, but any mistakes that I've made in my life, small or big, has taken me to this point, and wouldn't trade that for the world. What kind is my favorite ramen? I'm glad you asked, because this year has been a magnificent year in terms of me discovering my favorite type of ramen. Let me actually bring it up here. I'll post a link in the chat here. I'm excited about this because I got a pack of this. It was one that I saw them review on Good Mythical Morning. And I mean, they were doing like a ramen off or something like that. And based on that, I went ahead and ordered one of the top contenders. I don't remember if it was the top or just one of the tops. But oh my God, so good. Let's see. I may as well generate an affiliate link. Make a quarter on this. There you go. It's 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗺 original ramen. It's spicy. It not to be pretentious about it, but it has a fantastic umami flavor. It's kind of earthy, mushroomy, spicy, meaty. The noodles are so excellent. They're silky smooth. The broth kind of, it doesn't get thick, but it gets, silky. Just the best thing ever. Because I usually, in my life, have always just had top ramen. Chicken, beef, chili, whatever. And this was just night and day. Choose one to perish, Rhett or Link. Oh, I can't do that, man. Oh. Okay, so I will honor your request. This is tough, Ben. So I will say, not necessarily which one I want to perish, but I will instead shift this over to which one I think would more likely perish. And in that case, I would say probably Link. He has this quality to him that is like pensive to a fault, and oftentimes second-guessing himself. I could see him being on the edge of a cliff, unable to make a decision about which footstep to take, and as a result, just by default, falling off the edge of the cliff. So I would not wish any of them to perish. But just in terms of which one I think would be more likely to, I think it would be more likely that Link would. Yeah, or he'd probably stab himself somehow. Yeah, that's another thing, is he's so accident prone. He has terrible ratings when Rhett lets him go first. Yeah. Yeah, there's no one without the other. Again, that was the thing that I was mentioning with the 𝗘𝗾𝗺𝗺 podcast movie, is it's so great to see natural friendships on screen interacting with each other organically. And that is an element of, I think it's the element. Like, if that wasn't there, then I wouldn't have continued watching Good Mythical Morning for as long as I have. Oh, choose one or perish. Good good point, Liam. Hi, Jordan. Welcome. Happy New Year to you too. Choose one. Okay, so if I were to choose one or perish, I would say, taking that in at face value and assuming it's not a typo, I'm going to say Rhett. I think that watching him, watching them over the years and so forth with adventurous eating and just his general level of humor and so on, I would say that if I were to be interacting with one of them, or I think that I would naturally have more of a chemistry with Rhett, just based on personalities from what I'm seeing. We all out here killing them. Yeah, and it was totally unnecessary. Why am I doing this? Rhett's lion mane won me over. I'm working on mine again. Yeah, that was an element that was unexpected this year, was cutting my hair and shaving my beard. Jackie, you want to talk about some Control Z moments? Oh my God. All right, so when I shaved my beard, I made a video of it, and I put it to the soundtrack of Needle in the Hay to try and kind of replicate the Luke Wilson scene from Royal Tenenbaums. And I'm trying to remember if I made that patron exclusive or not. I think I did. So if anybody here is a patron and you watched that video, the one thing I didn't say in that, but was going through my mind, and you might be able to see the exact moment in my eyes when I went just completely dead inside while I was watching that, is there was a moment in which I was shaving the beard and I was revealing more of my face. And keep in mind, it's been 10 some odd years since I've, had a clean shaven face. And all of a sudden, my face turned from me into the face of my dad, which is an extremely difficult thing for me to process in the mirror on video in the moment for something that I thought I was just being silly about. So I was like, what the fuck? I don't think that my eyes were able to hide that. So if you ever want to go back and watch that video, you should probably catch that moment. Thank you, TYTD Reviews. I suppose with Christmas bleeding, this would be my last chance to ask, what horror series would you love to see get a Christmassy entry? Christmassy entry. There's an element of me that would love to see Santa Claus do mortal battle with Freddy Krueger. Since they both kind of operate from a place of nebulous magic, I think that could be rather fun and interesting. So I'm going to say a very Freddy Christmas. There you go. Stranger Things Christmas could be good. Yeah. Digging the hair and beard changes. Looks good, man. Thank you. I'm working on it. Mr. Boone asked what game you've played most this year. That's very easy. Red Dead Redemption 2. I made a point. So this year, one of the biggest changes that happened for me personally and for my channel, so I'll just say for me professionally generally, is the acquisition of a new computer. When I got my tax refund this year, it was about the same time as I was previously using a laptop that had a GTX 1060 in it. Which was great, but it was starting to show its age. It was 3-4 years old, and some ports on it were dying. And so as soon as the money's dumped into my, or just before the money dumped into my account, and the laptop was having issues, but that's what I was editing on. And you go away. Sorry, somebody spamming. All right. So anyway, I went to Jenny, and I basically was told her that I had this realization that I have my channel. I am working remotely through this computer. I've been doing computer repair, which needs my own home station kind of thing. It dawned on me that every single penny of the household income coming in was going through that laptop, and it was starting to go. So I made my case, and she was very receptive for it, of dropping on some serious money for a serious computer. So I did. And once I had it, it has an RTX 3070 in it. And I realized, I could do a whole lot with this. And one of the first things I did was pick up a PC copy of Red Dead Redemption 2. And once I had that, then I've already played through the game on the Xbox, for like 3 or 4 times. But I was very happy to do it on the PC with the better graphics and all. And once I did that and I beat the storyline, I was like, well, maybe I should 100% this bad boy. So that's what I did. It's probably my most proud gaming accomplishment to date, is getting 100% completion and the Legend of the East outfit for Red Dead Redemption 2. And that was all this year. So, yeah. Let's see. I love word vomit. I do that a lot. There's so many times, and I absolutely get this, Tanner. There's so many times in which I'll have a notion or an idea, and I don't have quite the verbal words to articulate it. So I'll just start talking until finally I realize that, hey, those words in conjunction in that order seem pretty decent. There we go. Yeah, I get it. Queen is iconic. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Mine is Queen, Ben Grimm. Oh, what's your favorite band and song? There it is. Okay, so I'm just kind of like going up the... my favorite band. So this is a weird one. I don't really have a favorite band, nor do I have a favorite song. I enjoy music, but I don't have the same level of passion or knowledge about music that I do movies. I've often been called, especially by my coworkers who at this point, they roll their eyes up until it comes time to have like the Christmas quiz movie edition thing, and all of a sudden they want to be my best friend. But I've been called so many times like the movie encyclopedia of my circles. And as much as I enjoy music, I don't have that same level of engagement with it. So as far as favorite bands go, I mean, it just depends on what mood I'm in. I wouldn't say that I really have a favorite. I'll listen to everything from classical music to Chumbawamba to Flogging Molly to whatever strikes my fancy. A lot of times I'll just have, coffee shop jazz going in the background if I'm studying or if I'm reading or if I'm working and I just need something going in the background. That's generally what it'll be. Yeah. Speaking of PC gaming, do you think that the market for parts will ever go back to semi-normal? I want to play Halo Infinite so bad. So what I did, I don't know if it'll ever go back to normal, but what I did was when I was ready to get my computer, I did a pre-build, a virtual pre-build on 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗺.com. And the GPU was obviously the hitch point, and I had no idea how to counter that. And then I went on Newegg, and just on a lark, I looked at the pre-built systems there, and I found one that was spec for spec identical to what I had built. In fact, it actually had exactly the same parts for a lot of them. CPU, motherboard, and power supply were exactly what I had already picked out. The case was a little less, a few things were a little less, but and the GPU was exactly what I wanted, and that was available. And the way that it all shook out price-wise is the GPU that was in this pre-built system was manufacturer retail price. So as much as I really wanted to build my own, I kind of just had to suck it up and say, I got to go with what's available, and what's available is this pre-build. So I don't know if it'll ever go back to normal, but pre-build's an option. It may not be the best option, but I mean, it'll get you there. All right, so let's see. One thing that I kind of wanted to do, I think it might be a little fun before we, wrap this up. I know we're going for a little bit, about an hour here, is I kind of want to take a look at the channel analytics, go through a year in review as far as the channel itself goes. So back to the view. All right, so I got 2021 in a wrap up here. 8.8 thousand hours of watch time, which is pretty decent. I'm pretty happy with that compared to 2020, which was half. I literally doubled the watch time hours, so pretty pleased with that. Average view duration 418. That's not too bad. I mean, considering most of my videos are anywhere between 5 to 8 minutes long, I say usually. So yeah, I think that's respectable. Key moments for audience duration. Yeah, that gets a little dry. I gained 1.3 thousand subscribers. I hit the 3,000 mark. And I'm very happy about that. I was, like pie in the sky when 2021 first started. I was like, we'll get to 5,000, but I knew it wouldn't happen. It was just, one of those larks. But the fact that I got, past the 3,000 mark, I'm super happy about that. Was not expecting that entirely. I mean, at some point, the analytics just kind of, like at some point I was expecting it just because you could see the pattern happening. But when the year first started, was not expecting it. That was awesome. Videos growing for your audience. Yeah, so I think I'm going to be starting to do more preparing ahead of time and then scheduling uploads for 4 or 5 o'clock just based on this. I was doing it around 1 o'clock. The advent calendar, it's just been as soon as I can do it, which has usually been in the evening. But that's an interesting thing, kind of showing the heat map for when people are on. Hey, Justin. How's everything going? Let's see. Subscribers who turned on all notifications, which I'm sure all of you have, right? I'm sure you have. 12.5% as in YouTube notifications, 7.9%. That's really not bad. Watch time for subscribers overall for the entire year has been 37.6% subscribed and been watching my stuff, which is awesome. I mean, that's pretty high for a lot of channels. That's a really high number, so I'm happy with that. Primarily male. That's surprising. I mean, it's not entirely surprising, but it's still, I thought there would have been a more even mix, just based on the engagement that I have with the community. But here we are. So let's see, reach, 2.3 million impressions, 122,000 views. That's pretty nice. I mean, this is the kind of what I've been looking for right here. I mean, it kind of looks like, a lot of up and down, but you can kind of see that there has been a steady average, growth there. And that's exactly what I want. It's just that slow growth. Browse features, external channel pages, suggested videos, things like that. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so this is skewed. I did that stupid Reddit video where I was making fun of the embedded Reddit player, and that spiked so hard that actually is throwing the analytics off. Suggested trailers, YouTube search. Okay, so these are like the top searches that I had. The Old Ways review, Benny Loves You review, Backbone Game, Amityville Moon, and Benny Loves You. A lot of people were really interested in Benny Loves You, and I think that I disappointed some people by not loving it. Oh, well. And I don't know. I have been kind of touting the idea of... I thought it would be more feelings. Thank you, Liam. That's true. I don't know. I mean, I don't remember. And I may have. It's been forever since I set up my Google account, but I don't remember specifying a gender, so I don't know. My most popular video of the year. That's a good question. Top videos of this period. So this is the stupid Reddit video I did that spiked things. But other than that, it was the Ultimate Amityville review from 2020 was the most watched one. And I still don't make a dime on that because I was still learning the threshold for copyright stuff. And for this year, as far as what I've actually put out this year, that was a proper review. It was for The Wolf House, which is kind of surprising. That was a fantastic movie. Not for everybody. Very, very interesting. The artistic aspect to it was just phenomenal. And yeah, this is my estimated revenue as far as ads go. I don't mind showing this. I've been a big believer in paycheck transparency over the last year. I've kind of grown into being more comfortable with that, and I think that it's interesting to kind of see that kind of thing. So this was the first year. I got monetized in December of 2020, so this was the first full year of monetization that I had, and from just ad sales, and I think I had one prior to this chat, and thank you everybody, but prior to this chat, I think I only had one live stream with one super chat donation from Ben. So that's pretty much just ad revenue here for the entire year. Some people might think that's small. I'm happy for every dime. So yeah, that's the year in analytic review. Just thought that would be interesting to see. Let's see. Most anticipated Amityville movie. of 2022. None of them. I mean, I know that, it's a silly thing to talk about, but honestly, none of them. I mean, 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗀𝗀 seems silly, but Sean C. Phillips seems to be just kind of like trying to make a push for Amityville stuff that I don't really have a whole lot of appreciation or patience for the directors that are putting out 50 movies a year. I mean, it gives me something to rant about. I can play that up, and I can, do the angry movie nerd kind of thing. But I mean, just on a cinematic film lover and what I'm actually looking forward to, they're the furthest things from it. The Dustin Fergusons, the Polonia brothers, the Andrew Jones, and yeah, Sean C. Phillips. He's just putting out a ton of shit, and it's probably all going to be terrible. And a lot of them are Amityville. Like, he's the one doing Amityville Shark House. He's the one doing 𝗘𝗾𝗂𝗶𝗽𝗺𝗀. I think he's the one doing Amityville Clown. I got a bookmark folder full of upcoming Amityville movies. Amityville Rising is that's another Thomas Churchill one. That's his third Amityville movie. I don't know if they're trolling me or what, but a lot of these directors are leaning into this shit, and I wish they wouldn't. So we'll see. Yeah, that's my answer. I'm not looking forward to any of them. They're good for the channel. They're good for me to lean into and have a little fun with, and continue the brand that seems to be happening. I don't mind leaning into it and having some fun with it, but doesn't mean I'm looking forward to the movies. What's your premise for an Amityville? The premise that I had as far as an idea for an Amityville movie is Amityville Christmas. And I thought, how much fun would it be to actually turn this from a B-movie schlock opportunity into an actual good movie? Like, if I actually wrote good characters and turned it into a story of almost Christmas Carol-esque mixed with Amityville possession kind of thing, where you have the two different distinct voices that are the house invading the mind of the father and trying to get them to murder their kids, but and doing so in a way that kind of does a corrupt Christmas Carol kind of thing, where it's showing him Christmas future with the kids being absolute assholes and brats and so forth, and weren't things kind of capitalizing on some of the frustrations as a parent, weren't things easier when you didn't have them around and you were able to enjoy your weekends, that kind of thing. And but I mean, actually have it to be a good movie. I think that would be something that would be an interesting twist, is to actually make a good Amityville movie, because it's been a while. So I don't mind having the B-movie notions, but there's no reason it can't turn into a decent movie. Happy New Year, Robert. So I think that's pretty much all I had. I wanted to answer the questions. I want to show the analytics. I want to do my top 10. So, I mean, I'd be happy to answer a few more questions here to kind of round things out. But yeah, so I'll sit here and sip my drink, and if anybody has any more questions, you don't need to super chat. I appreciate it. I do. Much appreciate. But just feel free to ask questions in the chat if you want. You like the purple light behind me? Thank you. That was another acquisition this year, was a set of LED panels that I was super happy to get. Favorite cartoon? The Tick. That was easy. I love The Tick. I've loved every incarnation of the Tick brought to screen on its own merit. Most anticipated horror of 2022. I am looking forward to Evil Dead Rising. I'm also looking forward to Nope. And kind of interested in seeing what they're going to be doing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I am excited for Scream. I kind of want to do a full rewatch of the series leading up to it. Kind of sort of anticipating Halloween Ends. I knew that. I mean, I liked Halloween Kills. I know a lot of people didn't, but I kind of knew that it wouldn't resolve a whole lot. Just by the merits of knowing that it was the second of a planned trilogy. There was a level of, generally what is or what can and can't happen just within that context. Thank you, Liam. I'll answer your question in just a second here. But I think knowing that Halloween Ends is the last of the series, that opens up a lot of possibilities as far as taking a lot of what can't happen off the board and turning into almost anything can happen. Considering that this is a refresh and kind of rewriting a lot of the story and knowing that they're going to be ending it, it opens a lot of possibilities up. So I am kind of looking forward to that. Okay, so what's my anticipated non-horror for 2022? That's a good question. Let's just see upcoming movies 2022. Oh yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the next incarnation of Across the Spider-Verse. I'm not looking forward to another Jurassic World. I'm just not. I'm really looking forward to Batman. I am a big superhero movie guy, and I'm unashamed to say it. I dig them. I think they're a lot of fun. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all good, but I do enjoy them. And I think, okay, so one more. Let's do, I'm also looking forward to the Bob's Burgers movie. I'm very curious to see what they do with that. I love Bob's Burgers. So, yeah. Somehow you survived this one crazy night 2 years ago when your hot babysitter and her bloodless uncle tried to kill you, and now you're 14 years old and just witnessed. Definitely like Kills for what it was, yeah. How your best friend killed me. Wow, B, that's a lot. Okay, so this is a three-parter to get to this. Somehow you survived this one crazy night 2 years ago when your hot babysitter and her bloodlusting cult tried to kill you, and now you are 14 years old and just witnessed how your best friend, who you also have a crush on, killed another girl by slashing her throat because she now has also joined said blood cult. What are the odds? All right, so the Babysitter series. You are in shock and unable to move. Which horror icon would you summon to come protect you, and why? Ash Williams. Yeah, definitely Ash Williams. He would fumble. He would, fall ass backwards into success, but he would have success. They don't call it Jurassic Park anymore. I mean, they do, but the last movies were Jurassic World and Jurassic World whatevers. And I think the next one is going to be Jurassic World Extinction. I don't know. I don't care. I love Jurassic Park, but I think as the movies have gotten, continued on down the line, it's lost a lot of what made Jurassic Park great. It was thrilling. It was exciting, but it felt real. The camera was kept from the perspective of the people. So the dinosaurs seemed huge because the camera was down here looking up at them a lot of times. And it never forgot that we are going through this from the point of view of the characters. And because of that, it made it all the more terrifying. And as the movies have gotten, it's almost self-referential and meta at this point, but as the parks have gotten bigger and the monsters have gotten bigger, more teeth, more dangerous, that kind of thing, the movies have also gotten bigger and less of a soul to them. The cameras are now hovering over everything, drone shot style, and everything just kind of feels artificial and soulless. All the action sequences are just capitalizing on the same, a million near misses as exciting things happen instead of more real, visceral, stuff that is boots on the ground. There's a full-on disengagement that's happened with the series, and I'm excited that Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum are coming back into it, but I'm not anticipating a good movies, and I'm not anticipating the movie, or not looking forward to it. Okay, so let's see. Lost City with Sandra Bullock, right, guys? Heard the director say he's going to make the new Christine horny as hell. Stephen King meets Titan. That'd be interesting, yeah. The Jurassic World movies are goofy as hell. Yeah. We need Jurassic Park to go back to teens, gymnasts fighting raptors. Okay, so, I think as the movies have progressed, I've slowly faded. But, Lost World was one that had a special place in my growing up because I grew up in San Diego. And I was living in San Diego when that movie came out. So the San Diego portions of that were just really, they were thrilling to say the least. But not the least of which was because where I grew up was in North Claremont, San Diego, California. North Claremont being a small community of San Diego. And we had the Claremont Square, which was our little shopping mall. And in the Claremont Square was the Pacific Claremont Twin Theater. And that was where I spent my childhood, going to the movies. You could buy a double feature for $2 and, go see two movies for $2. It was a movie theater that was set up and it originally had one really big screen, and then they wound up splitting it down the middle, putting a wall up between them and turning it into the Twin Theater. So depending on which side you went to, it was the screen was completely butted up against one wall or the other. But that was my childhood. And eventually the Pacific Theaters who owned that decided to go ahead and open up a megaplex in the same mall, just in a different area. So they opened up like a 15-screen multiplex theater, and they shut down the Twin Theater. And the Twin Theater ended up turning into a 99-cent store. But when they opened up the megaplex, Lost World was the movie. That was their premiere movie to open up the theater. And it was sad to see a portion of my childhood go away, but it was also thrilling to have this brand new theater with these really comfortable seats and so on. And to see the Lost World there, and then have the San Diego scenes and the 76 ball rolling down the street. It was a fun time. I'm not going to lie. Ness asked your opinion on the upcoming Christine movie and if you think they can pull it off. I don't know. I try not to anticipate what can and can't work. And I try to leave myself open for a lot of interpretation, letting the director's vision simply happen. I think one of the best examples of why that is the Evil Dead remake. When people heard that Evil Dead was being remade, and it was by this director that hadn't done a whole lot that anybody had ever heard of, and Bruce Campbell wasn't going to be a part of it on the screen, that everybody was just like up in arms. You're going to ruin it, so on and so forth. There's no way it can work. And it turned out to be one of the best movies of the series, if not the best. Just talking about objective quality wise, holy shit, what a ride. So, if people are coming and asking me, they're trying to remake this, can it work? Well, absolutely it can. We'll just see. There's no real knowing until we get there. I see the same thing happen constantly over and over and over. Every time they cast a new Batman, every time they do this, and this. Especially when we're dealing with an established franchise with a fandom and a new take happening down the line. It turns into this whole thing, and a lot of times it's just fine. A lot of times it's, for what it is, it's okay. So yeah. Thoughts on the new Exorcist movies coming out? Same director as new Halloween trilogy. Same thing. I hope they do well. I see no reason why they wouldn't. There's very few things that I think that, should be untouched. Amityville being one of them. That just needs to stop. Speaking of Batman, I think that one actually does need to just settle down. I'm excited for the new Robert Pattinson Batman, but as far as I think that, God help me for saying this, I think that Zack Snyder needs to take a back seat for a little while in terms of the DCEU, which I think that is the plan. So, but man, it's one of those things where, and again, God help me for going down this road. I wasn't anticipating that I would. There are things that I love, and I hate the fandom of them. Rick and Morty being one. The fandom can just be really oofed. And Zack Snyder has kind of turned into that for me. I enjoy some Zack Snyder movies. I have no real anything against him. Certainly not. I think that he is a director that has good moments. He's able to he's a mastercraft of moments. Sometimes those moments will cobble together to be a good movie, like in the case of The Watchmen. But in terms of actually taking those moments and turning them into a fully fleshed out story with good arcs, good characters, and telling a decent story, it's a little bit of a coin toss. But even then, when you have those movies that are kind of mediocre, they still have some great moments in them. And he's the Snyder fandom has become so toxic that even saying something as generous as that he can turn out some mediocre things with some good moments, would get me railed on. I've seen so much backlash, especially just in the past couple of weeks for God knows what reason. Yeah. So, not because of him, but because of his fandom. I just kind of wish, just stop for a minute. Just stop. So, let's see. I still like Dawn of the Dead from him, but yeah. I think he's a good person who makes movies. That's one of the best things. One of the best descriptors I've ever seen. Yeah. A lot of toxic fandom out there. Yeah, I enjoyed his cut of the Justice League too. And I didn't even really mind the length. But it's just, you got to go see me? Okay. Thank you, Sammy, for stopping by. Thank you. I'm so happy to see you here. Hope you had fun. I'm probably going to be wrapping this up in a short little while here because I'm kind of getting off on tangents and talking about the Snyderverse for God knows what reason. But yeah, as much as I enjoyed it, I couldn't help but feel just a little bit greasy by the fandom association, because even back then, even then, it felt a little toxic. And when the HBO announced that they were going to be releasing the Snyderverse, or the Snyder Cut, it almost felt a little bit like, God, careful with the words. It almost felt a little bit like caving to a petulant child, and now that's going to be the expected norm, that you're spoiling them. That's as far as I'm going to go on that rant there. Hoodley asked what your favorite Ghibli movie was. It depends. That's a good question. So the question is, what's my favorite Studio Ghibli movie? I think it depends on what mood I'm in, but it's going to wind up being one of the three, again, depending on what mood I'm in, between Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and My Neighbor Totoro. Maybe a four-way with Kiki's Delivery Service. But I love My Neighbor Totoro. For being as juvenile of a movie as it is, I thought it was absolutely magical, and still makes me cry when I watch it. Like almost like sad tears and happy tears mixed at the same time. It's one of those things like, Inside Out, when you get the multicolored ball at the end. Princess Mononoke, I think, was just an absolute beautiful storyline. It was a little bit dry in places, had a great environmental message to it, and I adore the shit out of it, but it's definitely not for all time. You know what? There's also Grave of the Fireflies. There's a lot of good ones out there. Grave of the Fireflies being one that I would not be a regular watch, but a hell of a watch. Thoughts on the Nostalgia Critic? Don't know why I'm asking this, but I find it hilarious to hear everyone's honest takes on the man's semi-dated or dead format. The Nostalgia Critic. I don't know. I mean, oh, okay. My take on it is, I've believe it or not, I've never actually watched any of his videos. I can't say anything good or bad about it. So, yeah, I have no thoughts. Maybe I'll check out the stuff and give some thoughts, but at the moment, zero. Grave of the Firefly is so good, but I can only survive it once. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it a few times just because of the masochist inside of me. But, it's one of those things where you fully expect, this is going to tear my heart out. Buckle up. It's a ride. Not a wild ride, but it's a ride. Just, Jesus Christ. I made you some rice balls. Why aren't you eating them? Why aren't you eating them? So, okay. I think with that, it's probably time to sign off here. Thank you so much for joining. I had a while. I just had the best time here. Like I said, I sometimes get nervous with these live streams, but this has been a great time, and I hope you enjoyed it. Happy New Year, everybody. I really hope that everybody has a fantastic 2022 coming up here, and we're going to enter into things with some positive attitudes. We're going to make our dreams happen. It's going to be grand. It's going to be great, and it's going to be a wild ride, and I'm going to have 5,000 subs by the time I do this next year, right? Right. So take care, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you my next review, which is going to be in a couple fucking hours. So take care. Have a good one.